Your legs are trying to tell you something. That dull, heavy feeling you get by the end of the day, the swelling around your ankles, the tingling sensation when you've been sitting too long, the coldness that creeps into your feet even when the room is warm. None of that is just getting older. None of that is normal. Your body is sending you a message, and most people are not just ignoring it. They're actively making it worse, every single day, 3 times a day, with their fork. What if the same tool you've been using to damage your circulation was the exact tool you could use to fix it? What if the grocery store was the most powerful pharmacy you've never visited for this specific problem? Stick around, because what we're about to unpack goes way deeper than eat your vegetables. These 5 foods work through mechanisms that most doctors never mention. And by the end of this, you're going to look at your plate completely differently. Before we dive in, if you've ever felt like your legs carry the weight of your whole life without getting any credit, share this right now with someone who needs to hear it. You might change their life without even knowing it. The invisible highway inside your legs. Before we talk about food, let's talk about what's actually happening inside you. Your legs contain some of the longest veins in the human body. The great saphenous vein runs from your foot all the way up to your groin. We're talking about blood that has to travel against gravity, pushed upward by a combination of muscle contractions, vein valves, and pressure gradients that your body manages millions of times a day without you thinking about it for even a second. When that system gets sluggish, when the blood thickens, when the vessel walls stiffen, when inflammation narrows the passages, circulation drops, and the effects aren't subtle over time. Poor leg circulation has been linked to peripheral artery disease, chronic venous insufficiency, deep vein thrombosis, restless leg syndrome, and nerve damage. But here's what almost nobody talks about. The food you eat either fuels that system or slowly suffocates it. And the science on this has existed for decades. It just doesn't get headlines. Most people think beets are just a colorful vegetable for salads. They're not. Beets are one of the most potent vascular foods on earth, and the mechanism behind them is something out of a chemistry textbook. Beets are extraordinarily rich in dietary nitrates. When you eat them, bacteria on your tongue, yes, your tongue, convert those nitrates into nitrite. Then, once that nitrite hits the acidic environment of your stomach and bloodstream, it gets converted again into something called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is, without exaggeration, one of the most important molecules for cardiovascular health in the human body. It's a vasodilator. It literally causes the smooth muscle cells lining your blood vessels to relax, widening the vessel, lowering resistance, and allowing blood to flow more freely and with less effort from your heart. But here's what makes this specifically relevant to your legs. The vessels furthest from your heart are the ones that benefit most dramatically from nitric oxide-induced vasodilation. Your legs, particularly your calves and feet, are at the end of a very long supply chain. When the vessels there dilate, you feel it. People who eat beets or drink beet juice regularly report reduced leg fatigue during exercise, lower resting blood pressure, and improved peripheral circulation markers in clinical settings. One important note: if you use commercial mouthwash regularly, you may be killing the tongue bacteria responsible for that first nitrate to nitrite conversion, which means the whole cascade never fully starts. Something worth knowing: salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring, the things that make a lot of people say, no thank you. And that instinct is quite literally costing them their circulation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the primary drivers of vascular dysfunction. When the inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, becomes inflamed, it gets stiff. It stops responding properly to signals. It produces less nitric oxide, it becomes more prone to clotting, and in your legs, where circulation is already working against gravity, any stiffening of the vessel walls makes an already difficult job nearly impossible. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, directly counter this process. They integrate into the cell membranes of your endothelial cells and change how those cells respond to inflammatory signals. They reduce the production of pro-inflammatory eicosanoids, lower triglycerides, which thicken blood, and have been shown in multiple randomized controlled trials to improve endothelial function measurably. In practical terms, the walls of your blood vessels become more flexible, more responsive, and better able to manage the complex hydraulics of getting blood down to your feet and back up again. The dose matters here. 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week appears to be the threshold where these benefits become clinically significant. Canned sardines work just as well as fresh salmon. The barrier is smaller than people think. You're halfway through. And if this is already changing the way you think about food in your body, hit that like button. It tells us you want more content like this, and it helps us reach people who are suffering silently without knowing there are real answers. This one surprises people. Cayenne pepper, the same thing that makes your eyes water and your mouth burn, is a serious circulatory agent, and the compound responsible is capsaicin. Here's what capsaicin does that most people never learn. It activates specific receptors in your blood vessel walls called TRPV1 receptors. When those receptors are activated, they trigger the release of substance P and calcitonin, gene-related peptide, two neuropeptides that cause rapid local vasodilation. In plain language, capsaicin tells the blood vessels in your extremities to open up, right now, quickly. It's one of the fastest-acting circulatory foods known. Beyond the immediate effect, regular capsaicin consumption has been shown to reduce platelet aggregation, meaning it makes your blood less sticky and less prone to forming small clots that can partially block smaller vessels. In populations where cayenne and chili peppers are dietary staples, rates of cardiovascular events are measurably lower. That's not coincidence. That's chemistry. The interesting thing about cayenne is that your body adapts to it. People who think they can't tolerate spicy food are almost always people who introduced it too quickly. Start with a quarter teaspoon in food, and within 2 to 3 weeks, your tolerance builds significantly. The circulatory benefits accumulate with consistent exposure. This is not a one-time fix. It's a relationship you build with your food. Before you dismiss this as wishful thinking, understand that the research on cocoflavanols and vascular health is some of the most replicated, rigorous data in nutritional science. This is not a loophole. This is biology. Cocoa, real high-percentage dark chocolate, not a candy bar, is dense with compounds called flavanols, particularly epicatechin. Epicatechin has a direct effect on the enzyme ENOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase. This enzyme is responsible for producing nitric oxide inside your blood vessel walls. When epicatechin activates ENOS, your vessels produce more nitric oxide endogenously, meaning from the inside, not from an external source like beets. The result is vasodilation, reduced arterial stiffness, and improved blood flow to peripheral tissues. Studies have shown that regular dark chocolate consumption, we're talking about 70% cacao or higher, roughly 20 to 30 grams per day, improves flow-mediated dilation, which is the gold standard measurement for endothelial function. In people with peripheral artery disease specifically, dark chocolate consumption measurably improved their walking distance before pain onset because blood was reaching the leg muscles more efficiently. The threshold is important. Below 70% cacao, the sugar content starts working against you, promoting the inflammation that impairs the same vessels the cocoa is trying to help. This is one of those rare cases where quality is not negotiable. Ginger has been used medicinally for over 2,000 years across dozens of cultures on multiple continents. That kind of track record doesn't persist without results, and modern research has finally caught up to what ancient medicine knew empirically. Ginger contains over 400 bioactive compounds, but for circulation, 3 are particularly important: gingerols, shogols, and zingerone. These compounds work on multiple pathways simultaneously. First, they inhibit thromboxane synthesis. Thromboxane is a signaling molecule that causes platelet clumping and vasoconstriction. When you suppress thromboxane, blood flows more freely and vessels stay more relaxed. Second, ginger compounds have calcium channel blocking properties, meaning they physically prevent the mechanism that causes arteries to overcontract. Third, ginger is a potent anti-inflammatory, reducing the cytokine activity that stiffens vessel walls over time. For the legs specifically, ginger's ability to improve peripheral circulation has made it a focus of research in Raynaud's disease, a condition where the small arteries in hands and feet go into spasm. But you don't need a diagnosis to benefit. Anyone with chronically cold feet, leg heaviness, or post-exercise leg soreness that lingers longer than it should is experiencing the downstream effects of impaired peripheral circulation. And ginger addresses all of the upstream causes. Fresh ginger grated into hot water with lemon every morning is one of the simplest, cheapest, and most effective vascular interventions that exists. The bioavailability of ginger oils is enhanced by heat, so a warm preparation consistently outperforms capsules in most studies. Here's what these 5 foods have in common beyond the specific mechanisms. They all work on the vascular endothelium. They all reduce inflammation. They all either produce or stimulate nitric oxide. And they all address the root conditions that make poor leg circulation inevitable if left unaddressed. The body doesn't make arbitrary choices. When circulation fails in your legs, it's not random bad luck. It's the cumulative result of an inflammatory environment, stiff vessel walls, blood that moves too slowly, and a vascular system that has been starved of the compounds it needs to maintain itself. These 5 foods begin to reverse that environment, not overnight, but consistently, measurably, and without side effects. Your legs have been carrying you your entire life. They've walked you through every hard moment and every good one. The least you can do is feed them properly. If you made it to the end of this, you're serious about your health, and that matters. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every week we go this deep on topics that most health content barely scratches the surface of. And share this with one person you care about who you know is struggling with their legs. Not because it's a nice thing to do, because it might genuinely change something for them. See you next time.